My name is Ian and welcome to Planted, my gardening channel. Now in this video I'm going to show you how to make your own growing mix. Now this is my choice plant. This is called a crinodendron. I got it earlier this year. It's quite choice, quite unusual, and it won't last outside in my climate. So this will be going into a frost-free location. I'm going to put it into this pot. I really want to point out to you the difference in sizes. You might think that you could go bigger. You don't need to go huge, but it is still a good size. Now, this is mix from my local dump. This is leaves and twigs that have been turned. They heat up, they decompose, they turn them, they heat them up, and they decompose again. This is really good stuff. You do get a few twigs in there. The recycling centre near where I live does a really good job at trying to utilize waste products. Now they have these piles where they have leaves and twigs. Occasionally you get bits of plastic mixed in there, and sometimes it can be a bit lumpy, but on the whole it is really well decomposed organic matter, and that's what I want. There's going to be a little bit of nutrient in there, not much, and when I add soil to it, which you'll see how I do that in just a moment, we end up with this wonderful growing mix. Now rather than going out and mixing up a huge batch, do a small batch. Just try and prove to yourself that it works. But I want to show you what I do to use this. You can add this to your garden, but putting it in pots by itself is perhaps not such a good idea. Let me show you what I mean. This is the size pot we're going to use, so I know I have enough. The first thing is to go through and pick out any big clumps. And spread it out slightly so it's a uniform thickness. And I cannot stress this next step enough. Add some garden soil. It's about a 10-to-1 ratio. Garden soil has got any weeds in it, make sure that you pull those out. Oh, there's a bowl, we don't want that. Adding the garden soil to this organic matter helps this breathe. It also helps it rehydrate should it dry out, and it gives it a very stable growing environment. This by itself can get very wet and heavy and cold and not drain, and it can also dry out excessively. Adding the soil prevents that from happening. Now this organic matter doesn't have much nutrient in it, and the soil probably has a little bit less. So I've got to add something to it, and I like to use slow release fertilizer. And then this is really easy just to mix up. Now if you place it on a tarp, you can use this to help mix it together. And I always end up making too much. That's alright, I'll use it on another project. Any clumps or twigs, you can get rid of those. Absolutely wonderful. Put that aside. Now I've used this trick before on many of my videos, so if you've seen it, good, and if you haven't, I hope you enjoy it too. Take your pot and you place it at the correct height. And what I want to do is just add a little bit more nutrient. You can see this even gap on all sides. It's about 2 inches. Hold the pot in the center. If you have a successful method for repotting plants, you keep doing it. Don't feel that this is the only way. One of the benefits of this is that because I'm gently adding my growing mix to the walls of the pot, It never gets compacted. This shake's very important. We want to make sure that the sides don't collapse. And there you are, that's it. Let's add some water. Now here is something to bear in mind. If you have a hose laying out in the sun and it's full of water, it will heat up incredibly hot. So much so that it can scorch your plants. And it's not so hot as to burn my hand, but just let it run for half a minute. And when you water a plant, don't be afraid to turn the pressure down. It's not the amount that you give the plant, it's the amount that the root ball is able to absorb. This root ball was a little bit on the dry side when I put it in its new house. So I want to make sure that I get that root ball thoroughly rehydrated. Now you might think, why bother? Why bother getting organic matter and then adding soil and then adding fertilizer? This is a choice plant. I haven't been able to find it ever when I got it, I think 6 months ago, maybe a little bit more than that. And it's done so well. And I really want to make sure that it lives and that it flowers. So mixing up my own growing mix is a small price to pay. It's an investment in the plant working for me. If you've got any choice plants that are worth saving year to year, maybe you've saved them in previous years, try this method: organic matter, soil and slow release fertilizer. You can use old potting mix from planted containers, but there are instances, and I've had it happen to myself, where doing it for the 3rd year and maybe even the 4th year, there's all sorts of bugs that get in there and they start to eat roots and plants don't perform. So valuable plants, take extra care, take extra consideration. We want this plant to thrive, not just survive. On that note, thank you so much. Bye for now.